Is that reshuffle inspired, and does it make Keir Starmer's Labour Party fit for government?
It's a very good step in the right direction. I think people like David Lammy, Yvette Cooper, we can all recognise them as serious heavyweight politicians. Fit for government? Yeah. I mean, frankly, on any gradation, you look at Boris Johnson, his ethics, his morality, his duplicities, his dishonesties, his unfaithfulnesses, and you look at Keir Starmer and you think, my God, why is one in number 10 and not the other? But
charisma, leadership, ideas, policy, guidance.
Much bigger than that.
Not in the public mind, not in the opinion polling.
I agree very much. I was canvassing in Bexley and Sidcup. There were some anti-Johnson remarks for the first time, I have to say, since the election. I mean, people in Labour just get very excited about Boris Johnson. I don't. I think the public discount him. Don't forget, Alistair, the majority of voters now get no news from mainstream newspapers. Not a lot watch TV, even great new programmes like this one, and they get it from here, there and everywhere, and they like Johnson as the clown, as the joker, as the cheer up the nation.
But I was talking to Sir John Curtis, the great number cruncher, who we both know and we both admire, on my 8 o'clock programme last night. And on Old Bexley and Sidcup, he made an intriguing point, and he said the turnout was down, therefore the Tory vote was down. The Labour vote was up 7%, which is quite promising. But in terms of real swing, what the Tories, who might be disenchanted, didn't do was vote for Labour. They stayed at home. Until you can get people to switch from Tory, Liberal Democrat, Green and the rest of it in numbers to Labour, then the answer to your question is yes.
Nobody's sure. The other big problem, of course, is Scotland. I mean, this is techie stuff, but how can you form a government if you're the Labour Party minus 54, 55 Scottish seats? We know that.
But again, because Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP are offering the Scottish people what they want, and over 50% of them consistently say, yeah, we'll have some of that. They don't even consider Labour in Scotland anymore.
No, it's finished. I mean, I do talk to a lot of Scottish friends, ex-MPs, current MPs, family up there, and you're absolutely right. Now, let's just also remember, in democracy, pendulums swing. And we've had 11 years now of getting into the 12th year of a Conservative government. It hasn't been a great decade. This is not the Margaret Thatcher decade. It's not the Tony Blair decade. It's been a very uneven, very uncertain governance of this country. Now, the challenge for Labour is to come back. That's going to require, I think, one or two more exciting policies. So you're talking about small business, and Labour people are out there. Rachel Reeves is out in Bury, I think. But is that connecting through to businessmen? I'd make another point, too, is that there's an awful long memory lag. So Neil Kinnock in 1985 comes out and denounces militants, says, get rid of Tony Bennism and Arthur Scargillism. Still has to wait 12 years. Before there's a Labour government. And we've got a very bad decade behind us.
Big 2-page interview with Sir Keir in the Times newspaper this morning. And one of the central things that he says, and it's picked up by their little front page coverage of their own interview, where he says, this government have failed business and hit people with higher taxes. So are we to believe, then, that Sir Keir Starmer is now the new friend of business and will be a tax cutter? I find that very difficult to believe.
I think so, in the sense that...
A tax cutter?
Well, in the sense that the imposition of taxes now on the British people, especially the hidden ones, like the national insurance hike, which really impacts on poor people, is going to be a vote loser for the Tories. Hence the other headline on the front page of the Times today, Rishi Sunak announcing a 2p drop in tax and big public spending cuts to pay for it. But public spending cuts means fewer GPs, fewer social care workers to try and solve the terrible tragedy we're talking about this week. So it's going to be very, very tricky. But I mean, I did have to tell Labour friends in 1992, when there was a huge elan that John Major would be swept away, I said, guys, we've got not a Mount Everest to climb, but 100 more Blancs. And we've got an awful lot of individual seats to win. And the voter demography is changing. You know all of that. Other issues, I think Brexit will fade away with time, but the problem...
well, that was going to be my final question, Denis, if I may, because what you mentioned David Lammy and you mentioned Yvette Cooper. and what a lot of critics have been saying. You're a consistent Remainer and
pro-European, yes, yes.
Pro-European, and I understand that respect. Others may disagree. That's entirely a matter for them. But what folk are saying is, Yvette's back in. She's the one who wanted to block Brexit, held up the legislation. This is the return of the Remainers.
No, I don't think so. Look, I know David Lammy well, I know Yvette Cooper well. Everybody in Labour, I'm out of it, of course, they say that's over. It is finished. We are not going to have a new referendum. We're not going to have a big rejoin. But at the same time, every British person who wants to take a pet in his car to France now has to pay a huge amount of money. And they're endlessly onerous little problems that are just gradually coming up the agenda. They've been hidden by the COVID and the pandemic, but they'll be there. All the students who can't study, all the European kids who can't come on school trips to England because of Priti Patel's insane policy saying they must have a big adult passport when they just come on the school bus. Lots and lots of small things like that. Joe Biden saying he will not lift steel tariffs, which cripple red wall voters. I mean, I used to represent a steel constituency. Tariffs on British steel if Boris Johnson keeps playing footsie with the DUP to destroy and damage and threaten peace in Northern Ireland. No. So,
last point, only because of time.
OK, it's some time to go. I think, to go back to your first point, the reshuffle is definitely a step in the right direction. But my goodness, I wouldn't read much more into it than that.